Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Console Overwatch Multi-Tier Tournament. We are here in the EU region for the Tier 6 Grand Finals. With the very tip-top of the mountain, see who's going to take it all as we have the number 1 seed, Free Takeaways, taking on number 3 seed, JTA owns EU.
Yeah, Bullskunk, it's an exciting match today. We're just getting the ready up from both of our teams before we hop in. Free Takeaways, the number 1 seed. They have chosen to come out on Ilios here, so that's where we'll be starting with a quick trip to Greece. Gonna do a little test of the pause button here as well, so nobody panic. It's like the emergency alert. It's the emergency alert system of Overwatch hosting.
I don't go into a game right away anyway, so nobody at home's any the wiser.
That's good. Well, now they are. But
a little peek behind the curtain there, friends.
Yeah. Hold on. I think I have to get out of the assemble heroes phase before I can do it. Man, I
No,
tell you
it should
what.
work.
No, that's not good.
Yeah, just go to double check, make sure you don't have endorsements on or whatever, the double bounding system.
Yeah, I'll figure it out right now. Anyway, yeah, no, it's looking to be it's looking to be a cracker of a match between these two teams. I mean, like you said, Bullskunk, right? This is the top of the mountain, right? These are the best teams in the league, as it were. These are the top of the EU world. So we'll see just how they do here coming out. There we go.
There
Pause
it
working
is.
now. Thank
Nice.
God.
Hey, better to figure it out now.
Yeah, and just remember, folks at home, if there is a player disconnect, we do not pause until the fight is over, and that is an important thing to remember. Both teams taking to the skies on Pharah here, and both teams leaning into, well, sort of a dive, a half dive on one side with that ball, Bullskunk. These are some interesting compositions and maybe a little unexpected, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially with the Echo Pharah accompanying the dive on one side, and an Orisa here for Free Takeaways. This is definitely an interesting look, but so far, working out for him as Free Takeaways find the first 2 kills of the match here on Well. Grizzly whittled down low. Warlock falls to Jomac, and that's going to be a first control started off by the Takeaways.
Yeah, Jomac actually really doing hard work there on the ball. He got another one on the backside as well.
Whew.
What a
good Hammond play is just so fun to watch.
Yeah, it's so disruptive too, and I mean, I think that's what we're seeing here.
And
Jay Carney and NGL playing this really dangerous game over the well, but doing a spectacular job of it and keeping themselves up. It's interesting, I think, to see the two Pharahs actually kind of taking more shots at one another, which is usually not the thing you want to do, but it pays off there for Warlock, who takes NGL out of the sky.
Jomac with mines all ready to go. Now, JTA Free to 4 gets their attention on the ground, but Otis got a little too close there, and Jomac taking him down, still on just an absolute tear with this wrecking ball, trying to turn his attention onto the Moor, forced to fade away. The opposing Hammond runs into his mines, and Jomac gets that final blow onto HK Ghul. Dude, just continues the spectacular performance on the Hammond here, Corbec.
It really does, but I mean, there's something really interesting in the midst of all this. They've been brawling. Jack Carney here hit an amazing res where he actually started falling down the well to give him cover so he could get NGL back into it,
brilliant.
and then flew back out. It was a beautiful play and a little bit hard to miss, but NGL coming back in now on this McCree and making the difference already by taking down Warlock there, and Z-Mighty's with a good stick as well.
Yeah, Nano Boost used during that fight onto NGL, aided in that big attack as they hold on throughout this major brawl, all the while Free Takeaways building up percentage. And we're looking at final fight territory here for JTA.
We sure are. JTA really never been fussed. This dive kind of never gotten off the ground here. So we'll see what they can do. Mines do come in, but it feels like not enough here. They kind of avoid it with relative ease, but it's Warlock popping off on the backside to make all the difference in what could have been the final fight.
Yeah, 2 kills there on the Ash, and now Big Presence follows up with a good 3rd kill. Make that 4 for Warlock there on the Ash. And JTA finally getting some percentage built up in their favor.
He's got those magic hands, right? Warlock
getting warmed up.
on the Ash there.
Yep.
doing a great job. But again, you know, the dive a little clunky, not exactly keen like we would want to see. We're not really getting the vibe that the Winston, you know, Gotham's is not hitting things at about the same time that Mirror is, which is ideally what you would want to see out of this ball Winston alignment. So hopefully they can maybe hammer down, and that was a lot better example right there going on to Joe.
Yeah, it looks like they're really tightening up their timing, but they didn't account for the pulse bomb from Z Mighty's. Picks up one. Supercharger out in the field is going to help take care of the rest. As Asta getting in the mix there. First round, going to the free takeaways.
Free takeaways, polishing it off right there. And again, a lot of this is the nature of the dive, right? We generally tend to think of dive as a classic composition, Bullskunk, and a composition that a lot of people think they can run. I mean, obviously, these are incredibly talented players. Like, a lot of these names would be familiar to anyone who was familiar with the T6 scene, like the top of the Overwatch leaderboards on either side of the Atlantic. But again, sometimes that communication is hard to establish, and I think that's what we saw maybe a little bit there. Ideally, you want the ball to slam, you want the Winston jump to follow it up, you get a bunch of displacement and a bunch of free damage off those CCs. But we'll see here. It looks like they're switching over at least to an Orisa on one side, a double shield, and still keeping Jomac on the ball, which I can't really disagree with considering how effective he's been so far.
The JTA going to something a little bit more traditional, at least meta, probably to say here. But free takeaway sticking with this unusual split composition where they're kind of half bunker, half dive. It worked out for him very well. A lot of it based on Jomac's performance of the Hammond as he goes in and gets a big slam there. Already built up nearly halfway to mines. A big boop, sending Warlock into the drink and then just rolling through the point. And can't help but feel that all of JTA's attention is on this Hammond while the rest of free takeaways are about to swoop in, pick up the kills. A big anti thrown into the pack is going to aid NGL in picking up that final blow. And despite the fact that JTA's got first progress, it's going to get flipped here pretty quickly.
Yeah, that was pretty rough right there. Harvey getting in on the action as well, but that's a bad carry. That's a bad pick on the tail end. They're very lucky they had Jack Harn to get the res because that could have been disastrous considering how low that particular battle horse moves. Resetting on the other side here. Kind of a forward hold again. Wouldn't really blame them for this. This also gives Jomac a lot of room to operate, but they've got a sneaky Sombra in the back line. Might have to watch out for Otis, who I think has plans of his own.
Yeah, just recently making that swap. Try to see if... I'm not quite sure what the intention there is. Perhaps get a hack onto the Tracer and try to slow down, or the Wrecking Ball try to slow down the dive. But like you said, they're hiding in the opposing backline. Jomac going to go ahead and invest mines here into this fight. Does get one in with that. And now just kind of rolling around, slowing down JTA as percentage builds up for the takeaways.
Yeah, Jomac doing a really great job here of making these streets just incredibly hard to move through. This progress is going to be slow, and again, Jomac rolling back in and disrupting, and we can't overstate as the high noon comes out just how effective this ball is. And that's a good pick there on Mirror.
A great pick as Mirror's sitting there with the flux in his pocket. Slowing down this assault dramatically. Warlock strikes back, picking up one onto the Tracer, but Harvey getting into the mix with the Ana finds the all-important Orisa kill as the Tracer's going to get rezzed here.
Yeah, again, though, this is slow progress. Bullskunk nearly 75% there on the tick, and there's really no coming forward. Gravitic Flux will come out, and this needs to be big, but he'll get stunned out of it. No luck to be had.
A good hack goes on to Jomac in the process, though, and the Hammond gone. The Bob thrown into the mix. Big ol' Butler coming up with the pick. Z Mighty's is going to find a kill with the Pulse Bomb. Equalize out. 4v4 here on the point until Warlock clicks the dome of Z Mighty's with that Viper. And JTA, well, they're getting this point back. We'll see if they can get some progress going.
Asta Carrier has no, or Asta Carrier Bag has no choice. Love that name, by the way. That's great. Has no choice but to jump over the edge. You know what Asta is, right? I don't want to like leave you out of the loop, Bullskunk, but that's very funny. Holding this line here, they rezzed him in, and it was, I think it just came a half a second too late there from Jack Garner. I appreciated the thought process, but just didn't quite get it off. And now an attempt at the mirror here by Mirror. We'll see how effective this is, but it's a bad way to start.
Supercharger coming out early. Like I said, Warlock going down even before the Supercharger came out. Jomac's going to use that to help take down Gotham and eliminate the Supercharger for JTA. And this is just looking like easy pickings for free takeaways. They seem to just stroll in and have their way with this point, have their way with the fights, fully in control. With 94% on the board, I don't know if GTA can get back in touch. Oh, there's a
honestly,
Sombra. There's a Sombra lurking. We're gonna get the
Is
dead
it
eye.
enough,
3
though?
takeaways. Oh, the big boob! Sends the Hammond off the, or sends the
Goodbye.
Winston off the side. Yep. And JTA can wave goodbye to Ilios. The free takeaway is taking it cleanly.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, free takeaway is never really that fussed. I think on that fight there at the end, ooh, a rare Orisa play of the game. You don't see those that often.
No,
I'm
you really
curious to see what we got here. Just shed loads of damage if we're being honest. Just never stopped firing there.
You know, 250 round magazine will it comes in handy.
Yeah, the closest thing to a machine gun, I guess, in the entire game, outside of Hammond's little blasters. But man, that, you know, on that last fight, Bullskunk, I really think we saw there was never a time at which JTA I guess kind of established themselves around that point defense. The minute that they lost the Ash at the beginning there, any sort of like presence that they had as a holding team kind of evaporated, because you're basically relying on the Orisa at that point in time to be the anchor point for a lot of rotating characters. But if the other team just pushes straight on, what can you really do there? There's just not a lot of options.
I mean, it was such an unusual look coming from free takeaways as well. I mean, that's certainly not something that you're scrimming for. You're not practicing against an Orisa Hammond composition. I mean, that was a Tracer and a McCree. I mean, that's what was that look, and how did it work so well? That was nuts.
I mean, you might be onto something in the sense, Bullskunk, that it's just kind of so weird and out there that you wouldn't expect it. I mean, again, right, you hope that the Orisa is the anchor point with the McCree, the Tracer, and the ball kind of rotate around the outside and do damage on the outside edge, or at least cause havoc on the outside edge. But you would never, I guess, I don't know. A lot of it too is credit to Jomac, who is playing the ball, doing a really good job, just being super disruptive. Basically, if you had a bad ball player in that situation, or not a particularly good ball player, let's say, you would not be half as successful, because so much of it, it relies on the ball disrupting the enemy's attack and preventing them from leveraging the majority of their force onto your Orisa. So,
outstanding performance, no doubt. They're on the Hammond. And we are going to hybrid here for map number 2, JTA's picks. Showing us King's Row. Is that correct there, Corbec?
That does seem to be correct. Just getting what side, or if they want to attack or defend first there on the side of free takeaways.
We saw this come into play in a big way in yesterday's matchup.
We did, actually. And, you know, it's the discussion that we've been having all week, right? Whether you attack or defend. King's Row is an interesting one. For my sake, running the lobby, I hope that free takeaways is perfectly happy to defend first. They might have different opinions on what is effective and what's not. You know, I think on King's Row is a map that I think has a lot of benefits for being the defenders, and I would argue that defending first here with free takeaways going up on the one map probably makes a goodly amount of sense, all things considered.
I'd have to agree with that here. And I think that seems to be the trend. If it's a map that really favors the defense, you're going to want to defend first, see if you can put up that big hold.
Yeah, and I mean, King's Row, that's the kind of place where you can do it. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the best map for first point holds, right, in Overwatch, but certainly we see teams pull off really impressive holds in that first point, run down the clock to overtime. The streets phase is, again, very difficult for attackers. A lot of those kind of narrow breaks do make it really difficult. And then the last phase, it's a difficult one. I mean, high ground control on the last phase is almost surrendered entirely to defenders from the beginning with that central platform. You know, you just give it up whether you like it or not.
Well, and that's until the attackers make that final turn. Once the attackers make that last turn, it seems like that last half push home, when you're really concerned about the respawn advantage of the defense, the attackers can utilize that high ground in their own right. So the tail flips as soon as the attackers make that last corner. That whole third point kind of, I mean, there's a major shift in balance. It's one of the reasons I love this map so much is a seemingly simple map with a lot of intricacies.
Yeah, I mean, it's everybody's kind of favorite map for a reason.
Yeah, it's the fundamental map for sure.
It's the fundamental Overwatch map. I would agree with that. A lot of people would maybe make the argument that Anubis, being the first map that was ever created for the game, should kind of have that role, right, as the fundamental map. But I think Kings Row steals it 9 times out of 10. You can see it going back to even before Overwatch League. A lot of the early sort of charity tournaments and stuff were played on Kings Row. This was a popular choice. It does look like Free Takeaways will actually be taking the attack here, so just give me a second to make these changes, and then hopefully we can get started. Yeah, an interesting choice there, Bullskunk, and again, kind of counter to what we had expected, or what I had expected at least. I think you were the one who said that you generally tend to favor the attack, right, in these situations.
I like putting the pressure down, and I like the confidence it takes to go on the attack first. And what we saw happen yesterday, I mean, if you go in and put up a monstrous time, we saw it on Hanamura, I believe. You go in and just put just a smashing time down, then you can demoralize the defense very quickly. And that's when I like going on the attack first. But it takes some brass. You got to have guts, and you have to execute.
Yeah, I mean, Overwatch, right? It's such a game of momentum in so many ways.
Correct.
And it is an opportunity to see some momentum, though I guess I could argue from the opposite perspective that it tends to crush momentum as well if you get pinned in a very good defense.
Yes.
But I do think there is something about defense, right? When you go on it, at least, that you can kind of like, oh, you know, we can do this, we can hold. Like, defense does seem to provide a morale boost, as it were, in my mind, at least. So maybe that's part of it as well.
The whole Fuller hold mentality, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, there's something to be said, kind of at the back of your mind, and I think it's almost, and I don't want to get like too weirdly psychological, but it is almost a basic human instinct. You know, when your back is against the wall, a lot of people really like do better.
Yeah.
You know, when they're forced into that clutch situation, and I do think that defending can sometimes inspire that too in a team, which can be helpful.
While we're waiting for the rosters to get ironed out, we're going to take a quick look at the playoff bracket here, just to give you a sense of how these teams got where they are. JTA's with a map 5 thriller to beat the one-ball Bandits there in the semifinals, getting there cleanly with a 3-0. It's been an interesting bracket. Of course, we will have the bronze match, Tier 6. We do have the 3rd and 4th place teams battling it out to see who can take that bronze medal. It's been an exciting playoffs.
It has been an exciting playoffs, and I mean, we love to see the T6 guys pop off, right? Like they're the best of the best in a lot of ways. And
Absolutely.
It's been an absolute pleasure kind of seeing them battle it out for those top spots. It looks like they are ready to go. So we'll go ahead and get started here, moving into Kings Row. Free takeaways on the attack. JTA run EU there, holding up the defensive side as we enter into the game.
And JTA's map pick, and they get to defend first, so strong possibility to get themselves back into this thing. I mean, Control, of course, not necessarily indicative on how the rest of the series is going to go.
Yeah, that is true. If there's one thing that we've learned this week is that Control is kind of the redheaded stepchild of of Overwatch map types, right? In a lot of ways. We've seen a number of matches where a team will come out just kind of barnstorming on Control, and then it just suddenly the gas runs out. I don't know what happens. No more wind in their sails. However many, what are those idioms I can fit into a description of why things don't work. But it does tend to happen. And interesting defense coming out here on the side of JTA, running the double shield, not quite giving into the Baptiste Zen. Instead, they're sticking with a Baptiste and Brigitte. And then having Otis come out on the Torbjorn. I actually love Torbjorn on the first point of Kings Row.
Yeah.
It's a really solid point for him. But, man, Streets Phase is some grim stuff.
Well, especially with the Ash Echo that we're seeing from the other side. What I like to call the Killer Queen comp coming in. Dynamite with the laser beam, right?
Yeah,
right.
Very true.
But the turret can be a heck of a defensive tool against the Echo, not allowing her room to work. Z Mighty's taking it out early for free takeaways, but Harvey goes down. Rez is available there, so free takeaways back at a full 6-man attack squad as they try to push in, but Jack does fall shortly after the Rez. So back to a 5-man, back to the deficit, go free takeaway. Still trying to push in, put pressure down. So far, JTA doing a good job of keeping them in check.
They are doing a good job, and that's an excellent accretion there. The fight's still kind of boiling. Neither side really wants to give this one up, Bullskunk. They're holding on, and I think they're waiting kind of for NGL to get in a little bit more damage, and that Echo up there is a plague right now for the defenders.
Mercy makes it back into the fight just in time to res carrier bag up. And free takeaway is going to try to get aggressive, but here comes the Ant Matrix from the other side. Carrier bag does not live much longer. Now it's JoeMac's turn to go in, trying to put some pressure down. Duplicate coming through from NGL onto the Sigma. So an extra tank back there temporarily while they're waiting for Aztec Carrier to respawn. Still no progress really picked up. The extra duplicate does not get to that gravitic flux off in time. And still really defense just holding strong. Not a whole lot of weaknesses to be seen so far as Warlock's going to pick NGL out of the sky.
Yeah, now using this rally to just kind of shove their way forward and bully him out. And this is a much more organized, much more calm, kind of much more rooted JTA than we saw on the last map. A really interesting interaction there. I think they nanoed NGL there on the Echo while she was in the Sigma form. And when she came out of the Sigma form, she immediately lost the nano. Which is really interesting.
Ooh, Halt Flux coming out from the defense, start things off. That's going to find 4. Now Molten Core being thrown over the point. Supercharger from free takeaways to try to counterpunch back, but it does not look to be enough to find the kills as GTA is just going to run them right back out.
Yeah, and so something interesting to note there. I mean, we don't see a lot of Torbjorn play, right? But that was a very good use of the Torbjorn ult, at least in how it was positioned. He basically shut down every major route there with his little piles of molten goo. And that was just really well done. It basically forced the team back out the door with just one ult.
Ant Matrix coming online for the defense. Otis falls early, and this is the only ultimate online here for the D. We're going to have the nano boost online for the attackers. They may not even need it. Push it through NGL, picking up a kill. Z-Mighty getting into the mix as well. And suddenly, JTA very much on the back foot all the way into the streets phase right now as progress coming through for free takeaways.
Well, not a lot you could do right there. Bullskunk, Jacko nearly going down at the end as well, or Jacko as it were, falling back into cover there. You know, they just kind of got rolled over on that particular engagement, and it's the kind of pressure that you can apply with the Junkrat into these static formations. That's just so much damage coming down the pipe, and Junkrat is such a frustrating character. But I find it really interesting. Basically, on the side of JTA, they went for a soft reset here and just continue to push forward.
And yeah, they're going to try and make an aggressive posture right here at the point B arch. Forcing out some cooldowns from free takeaways, making it very difficult to push in. They're going to drop the nano boost onto Z-Mighty's on the Ash. But here comes the Gravitic Flux from the other side. Bob coming out immediately right as it comes on off of cooldown there. Warlock and Z-Mighty trading kills. DPS missing for both teams. 5v5 here on the cart. As Warlock has made that swap over to the Pharah, providing some air assault and takes down Z-Mighty's the only real threat to Far in the Sky. Now free to just get aggressive, push in, throw the rockets down onto JoeMac. The Orisa finds the safety of the healers as the res comes through onto the Ash, but Jacko pushing forward with the Brig being the difference maker here.
I don't know if they've ever heard of disengaging in the EU. This is some marvelously aggressive play from both these teams. But really, like, they just don't want to give up ground, and they're trading the picks back and forth. And the fights are lasting a really long time. But this tire, that might make things a little bit harder there, because HK Ghul going down at this early stage with ult no less is a big loss.
Yeah, Molten Core thrown in from the defense to try to see if they can get the kills quickly enough, close this thing out. Warlock went around to the flank, dropped the barrage into the back. Ozda Carrier took him out, but not before free takeaways loses their on it. Okay, res is available. Valk used from the takeaways. They will eventually clean up and push this thing through, but a lot of time eaten off the clock through these prolonged fights.
Yeah, so funny enough, actually, that ult from Otis there saved Mirror's life. And actually allowed him to get out a little bit better. If he hadn't have done that, Mirror would have gone down right there. He was anti-ed and losing health very quickly. Otis kind of cleared it out, but Otis now having given up on the Torbjorn, which honestly is the only justifiable choice in the Streets phase. Torbjorn not particularly great in that part of the map.
Yeah, good swap indeed. Gravitic Flux from takeaways as they push to the back of point B. Warlock answers back, though, through the Ant Matrix. Oh, rockets through Ant Matrix. That's just so much damage. You're looking at 240 damage for a direct hit. And the defense cleaning up. Great shooting from Warlock on that Pharah.
It's funny, really, because Bullskunk, you generally don't tend to think about Pharah as a character who'll be able to take advantage of windows, you know, the way that they're positioned. But yeah, it's a huge combo if you can get it off. The damage that comes out of a Pharah through a window is enough to make anyone shiver. And we saw a really good example of it right there. And Warlock kind of playing this Pharah largely unaccompanied right now. Doesn't have that kind of support that you would expect. Only the armor packs coming up there from Jacko on the ground every once in a while, but doing a very good job and not really receiving a lot of pressure from Z Mighties.
I agree wholeheartedly. Warlock doing a fantastic job on this far. A big presence here. Barrage is online, I mean, every 60 seconds. And here comes one as we speak. Dropped into the back. Immortality Field is there. Oh! Far gets taken out, but it doesn't matter. The ground force is able to move in. All of JTA's were, all of Free Takeaway's eyes were up in the sky. JTA moved in, cleaned up on the ground. Good hold here, the back of point B. Now, win conditions set. This is doable.
That was a really solid defense by JTA, looking like a completely different team from what we saw there on Ilios. Far more coordinated, far more together. And on the other side of the ball, Free Takeaway is kind of floundering just a little bit. You know, we saw them with Z Mighties kind of getting picked off by their opposite number on the Pharah. Wasn't particularly spectacular. And that unaccompanied Pharah should be, right, a bit of a feast for an Ashe. But the one thing I will say in defense of Z Mighties right there is Pharah has ample cover to play with.
Yeah.
On that street phase of Kings Row, it is a great point for a Pharah, even one unaccompanied. And coming out on the attack here, I'm not surprised they're holding on to Otis and Warlock as they are. It's working very well for them, and definitely some pressure going to be put here on Free Takeaway's DPS to figure out how to shut that down, because you really obviously can't rely on JoeMac and Az to carry your bag to do it. That's not their job.
The flyer composition working very well. The aerial DPS. And I mean, like you're saying, there's a lot of rooftops for the Pharah to hide behind here. And the armor pack itself can't be underestimated either. I mean, it's amazing how much damage that armor will negate. But nevertheless, Mighties is going to have to land some more shots. Find a way to open this thing up through the two healers. Otherwise, this could be a very quick assault for JTA.
We'll see what they put together here. You see kind of the I don't know. We need a good name for whatever this his comp is. I don't think anybody's given it yet. But, you see the Royal Air Force coming over the top here, dropping in the shots on the backside as they begin to push forward. Z Mighty's getting rolled up right now. HK Ghul doing the heavy lifting.
So much pressure coming down onto this defense. They can't survive. There's nothing that can stop the Royal Air attack here.
I don't know what we call it, but my lord, that was a absolutely brutal push out the front door, and really nothing they could do. They kind of just got punched in the mouth and never stopped reeling there on that entire attack.
And even with the pharmacy, even with the Mercy pocketing NGL in the skies, not quite able to take the duel because of the added pressure from Otis. There you go, as the carrier, finally clipping the wings of Warlock. We'll see if Free Takeaways can plant their feed here. No ultimates online for them just yet. Good news for them, no ultimates really online for JTA. And Matrix coming on shortly as HK Ghul continues to do work on this Baptiste.
Yeah, you see Mighty's playing back on that Ashe. I think they're just trying to use this gate to hold off the other Pharah. That's a big window coming out, but Otis will go down early on. And that's a significant pick there, because the Echo is the one who opens up a lot of the angles here on this push to try and get them through this archway. And this is turning into a more difficult prospect than I think they initially expected, though it looks like Gotham's Grizzlies, due to a little bit of a misposition by JoeMac there, is able to get the cart through the majority of the arch.
Oh, and look at the ultimates Free Takeaways have managed to build up during this time. They ran away with the ult economy, using the Ant Matrix there to kind of push JTA back around the corner. JTA does have a few ultimates of their own. Barrage is available on both sides. It's going to be the Flux to open things up from the attackers, trying to see if they can find a way through the streets of Kings Row. Duplicate comes out onto the Orisa, but they don't account for the bomb. The big Omnic Butler getting into the mix. Doesn't even look like Otis is able to get the supercharger out, and Free Takeaways running away with the fight.
Yeah, crushed down there. It was a good bob that came in actually at the end and put a lot of pressure, made it really hard for Mirror to get that gravitic flux off. And again, this forward hold that we've seen before is really looking good here. JoeMac not giving any ground at all, playing very much the front line position, and honestly, not much of a pocket coming in on the backside. Big window, though, lots of stuff going on. There's a barrage over the top as well, and that'll take Jacko out of the equation right at the start.
Yeah, empowered by the supercharger coming out from JoeMac, enabling just so much damage here on the defense. And so far, this up-close and personal hold working for him. 2 ults spent by Free Takeaways during that fight. The same combo now available for JTA to push through this choke.
Yeah, lots of damage coming in. Mirror going down again. These early poke phase deaths are really causing some significant havoc. Harvey doing absolutely very little work there to shut down Warlock. That was an easy one, all things considered.
I think he got rocked out of it, if I saw that right. I just barely made it to his camera in time. I think Warlock got actually rocked out of the barrage, and then as he tumbled, Ghul gets the shots off. That was a great play from the defense. Or, excuse me, the other way around. It was Harvey getting the shots off, but yes.
Yes.
Hey, don't let the color swaps fool you, Corbec. Don't let the color swaps get you.
No, the color swaps always get me, truth be told. Beatdown Bongo coming out early, Bullskunk. This is the kind of ult they could use. A lot of damage straight down the pipe. The Echo getting in there as well. We'll see if they can turn this one around on this.
And Matrix from the defense, though, to counter back, and it's going to be Z Mighty's fighting first blood. Barrage out from the defense as well, and the tanks are gone. And that attack just fizzles out. Good news for JTAs. They still have 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. And they'll have both support ults to work with as well as a flux coming back into this next fight.
Well, yeah, the support ults I think gonna be a decisive factor here for them. I mean, they're really stalling out here, but even as we say that, I mean, still 2 minutes on the clock, plenty of time for them to push through and make this stick. They just need to actually do that, as what might be the 3rd window, I think, of this push comes out.
Indeed, a good hold.
Very little regard.
Yeah, Gravitic Flux now being used into the mix. They will get one. The Immortality Field does not come out in time. Another halt into the rock, and finally JTA putting up a good fight. A great-looking assault here on point B.
Still making it go. The support's trying to stall it out a little bit with the help of Bob. But yeah, the minute that JoeMac got taken out by that was pretty much curtains there. And it shows you how important the tank is there on that front line holding that. Of course, they'll get another contest here on the streets phase. You see JoeMac already moving up, but they've got to regroup quickly. They don't have a ton of room to play with.
No, not at all. And Flyers at Warlock and Otis able to pick up some high ground, take advantage of the top of the subway, of this catwalk above. This is going to be a difficult retake for Free Takeaways. They're going to try to use the supercharger to help out, see if they can overcome the positional disadvantage. Looks like AGL just get up close and personal. Here comes the barrage out. That's going to find one before he gets taken out of the sky. Warlock follows it up with a kill onto Harvey as well. Carrier Bag able to clean up the flank, and I think Free Takeaways, they're going to send JTA packing, though it's a close fight. It looks just to be a couple of tanks left on the point. They're going to clean up Warlock, 45 seconds on the clock.
Well, this is an interesting one, too, because the respawn advantage, not necessarily distinctly in favor of any one team. This is close to the midway point, and a quick regroup coming out on the side of GTA to try and get him up, but it was a really good recontest there by Free Takeaways, especially NGL on the far, I think, making kind of the back-breaking difference alongside Z Mighties, and we'll see if they can turn this one around as they push up. They're going to have to get a lot of value out of the Bob and a lot of value out of the Echo ult. That's going to be the huge, I think, game changer in this particular setup.
JTA feigning to go flank around. Here comes the Echo duplicate. It's going to be a Sigma pushing into the back line, already taking half damage, but gets a lot of back from the Flux. Turns around, finds the kill. That's a good showing here. 91 to the Flux. They got the Flux out. Otis looking to carry this thing across the line with a little help from Warlock and Gothams. And JTA, they're going to tie up this series here. 1-1 taking Kings Row.
So the huge kill right there was on the support. Jack Karn, the Mercy, had Valkyrie, did not get a chance to use it. before she got burned out, or they got burned out, I should say. And a lot of that was due to the fact that the Orisa was caught in the sort of gravitic flux, but didn't obviously go up, which allowed them to use that to the best of their ability. Not necessarily that the Mercy would have turned that fight around, I think, and it's a great play right there, actually, by the DPS. But it certainly would have been very helpful if they had that Valkyrie in the pocket just to give them that extra healing and maybe try and get them through some of that Bob, persistent damage from the Bob.
That was... I don't know if it would have been enough to overcome the fantastic echo play from Otis, but it certainly would have helped, like you were saying. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hydrate. Y'all go hydrate yourselves. It's always important. We'll be right back with our assault map when we return. It's Free Takeaways pick. What will it choose? We'll find out when we come back. Well, welcome back, my friends, to the Console Overwatch multi-tier tournament. We are here in map number 3. Free Takeaways have chosen Temple of Anubis for our assault map here today. My name's Bullskunk alongside Corbec, and we're not going to waste any time. Let's get right into map number 3.
Yeah, going into Anubis here. So these teams tied 1-1. It appears that JTA has chosen to stay on the defense here on this map pick by Free Takeaways. So, you know, if it isn't broke, Bullskunk, why fix it? Defense worked quite well for them on the last time. We'll see if they run something similar, and they do. Otis coming out on the Echo, Warlock on the Ashe. Basically the exact same composition we saw last time. The significant change we see here is coming out on Free Takeaways. JoeMac going back over to that ball, which was kind of oppressively effective on Ilios, and then Z Mighty's coming in on the Tracers. So an interesting choice there. Two characters really able to get past the choke quite quickly and put pressure in the back line. A lot of pressure, I think, going to be put on JoeMac to make some big plays on that ball to justify that pick.
Well, and we were talking about how Free Takeaways seem to lose a little bit of their bang going into King's Row. I wonder if they don't just do well in the chaos. If this isn't a team that thrives when they create the chaos, throw their opponents off of their game, whereas JTA looks very, very coordinated and very at home in these drawn-out kind of slow-paced fights.
JoeMac kind of did a quick scout there and is immediately going to go around the left-hand side, and that, I think, is going to be the big engage signal for them here. Will be JoeMac coming in with the pile drive any second now, as soon as he gets a good setup.
JTA have already caught it. They're going to go ahead and just rotate all the way back to the objective, give up a little space in favor of not getting caught by that dive, which is going to prompt JoeMac to rotate around through the high ground, circles all the way up to the far right side. Mighty's trying to get into the mix. Both, well, Rez comes through into JoeMac, who had gone down, and that means Mighty's kill is going to be the opening pick, and GL finds one as well. No more damage dealers for the defense, and JTA forced into the small corner of the mini room, and as they get backed up more and more, the pressure coming through from Free Takeaways, and so did the kills.
Yeah, this is rough here. They can't get the Orisa up to the line. They're literally getting body blocked at the doors. What a bit of play there
oh, that was
by the
nasty.
attackers. Free Takeaways, literal body block on the side of, I think it was Asda bag carrier, and Mirror's still alive here.
Still
in the back
continuing
line.
to stall. Oh, dirty stagger. Because I think they got him past that magic spot where he's going to get the instant respawn. So now he's going to have to wait out the 10 seconds while the rest of Free Takeaways has pushed onto the point. Throws down an Amp Matrix and a Pulse Bomb there. The Pulse Bomb does get blocked by an Immortality Field. Now an Amp Matrix coming out from the defense, but NGL! NGL finds 4! Holy cow. 2 from the Viper, 2 from the Big Omnit Buckler. Excuse me. 2 ticks already picked up, and look at this time bank. Good lord.
I'm speechless.
What did we just see here, Corbec? That was something else.
They ended with more time than they started with. I mean, that was insane. Funny enough, like, it's so interesting to me, Bullskunk, because we just saw King's Row. We just saw a defensive situation in which JTA did a great job on almost the exact same composition. Otis, right, was playing the Torbjorn in that, of digging in their heels and holding out. But the minute that JoeMac came in on the ball, it was like something had just completely shook them, and they fell back good enough, right? They did the kind of the proper rotate, barring maybe Mirror getting a little caught up on the high ground. They did the proper rotate and just got overwhelmed by Free takeaways, there was nothing they could do. I mean, I think Otis derived practically zero value out of that Echo through that entirety of those fights. And it's not to say that Warlock, I mean, was popping off either, but crazy stuff there. Gotham's has to be fuming over the fact that he just got pinned in that back corner room there on the attack.
Yeah, who needs the kills if you can just keep him from touching? My goodness.
Yeah, you know, I haven't seen that, like, hardly ever.
I don't think I've seen. I mean, like, just straight up just acting as a bouncer. Like, nope, sorry, this club is full. You're gonna have to wait there.
You're not on the list.
You're not on the list, sir.
they didn't react to it fast enough either. That's the other problem. They did not react and rotate quickly enough. And now they've kind of got a tall order here because Jomac is staying on that ball and NGL is playing the Pharah, so a very disruptive, again, composition looking to feast on kind of chaos if they can make it happen.
I love Mighty's positioning as well, just waiting up on the high ground to pounce on a lone member of the attacking team. JTA looking to kind of scout their approach. All right, looks like going right up the gut. Nothing fancy here. Let's just press on to the objective. But immediately, Orisa getting pounced on. Gotham's forcing out the Immortality Field from his Baptiste just to keep him in the fight. Jomac and Mighty putting so much pressure down on this Orisa. Baptiste doing a great job in the name of Ghul to keep the Orisa in this fight. So far, defense just keeping things in check, prolonging this thing out, but not finding any picks.
Kind of just looks like quick play at the moment. They're all spread out, and I know there's a method to this madness, and it's finally starting to pick off because the Flyers are getting the picks they need here, Bullskunk. Two big ones there, Otis and Warlock both contributing. But Mirror going down fast on the other side, that's not particularly great news either. This window, though, could turn this around.
Oh, Mighty's does go down. Otis finally getting some value out of the Echo. Does not look, well, the window ended up being kind of a non-factor because Otis just flew in and killed everybody.
You know, I guess he heard us saying we didn't get enough value off the Echo on the last side because decided he was going to get some value off of it there. And it was a pretty decent take. Obviously not as fast as what we saw on the other side, but a good 5 minutes coming in here. And some ults in the bank to advantage them as well. The Barrage and Otis going to be big. Otis going in for the ball. That's not a pick you usually see, but let's see what he does with it.
He's going to slam down. Already has halfway to the mines. Manages to take out the supercharger from free takeaways. And just throwing some pressure down onto the supports. But eats a sleep dart as the mines come online. No value out of that secondary ultimate, I guess you could call it. And then he just gets halted and deleted by Mighty. Comes back in on the McCree. The Cowboy cleaning house here on the back of point B.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw indeed.
Yeehaw indeed. You know, funny enough, an interesting thing there was a really great play by Jomac, threw down the minefield in front of Gotham's, came around the backside in the midst of all that chaos, and just pushed Gotham's up into the minefield. Nothing the Orisa could do but take a little bit of damage there, which is what set up the early kill and really theoretically kind of broke the back of the attack, right? Because when the anchoring point of the Orisa is down, they didn't have a lot they could do, but now Jomac getting picked out early on.
Yeah, he got super aggressive and did his darndest trying to roll out of it. No such luck now with the man advantage pushing in. The Echo getting very aggressive. Otis trying to push in. Warlock looking for room to drop the Barrage. Eats a big shot from the McCree early and forced to back out. Now the Barrage finally does come out. That's going to get Harvey on the Ana. Jack Carney taking him down, but a lot of damage already inflicted. Mirror finding a pair of kills. Rez comes through onto the far, and here comes the progress on point B for JTA.
They'll get a contest here from Jomac at least. Hooked immediately. They'll throw out the window and he gets him on the tail end, Bullskunk. You don't see that very often, but a great play by Mirror there to shut down Jomac on the ball. And you know the funny thing about this match is, honestly, Bullskunk, if you asked me which team was just stronger skill-wise, I would probably tell you that it's free takeaways, right? We're seeing great individual play coming out from Jomac. I assume he's making spectacular calls there on the ball. Really, Mighty's and NGL looking great. But every time I'm about ready to say, like, oh, these guys are going to run away with this, you know, there's this little flash of brilliance, or these flashes of brilliance that come out from the other side of JTA, and they kind of claw their way back in. And that was one of them right there. A great play at the end to just completely shut down Jomac's stall, and there was really nothing the other team can do, and Mirror is going to stick on this hog, and I can't blame him for it at all.
Fantastic ult discipline from JTA as well. They didn't spend all of their ults to get to the point. I mean, they built up a couple during that last engagement, but they saved a couple ultimates as well, which ended up being crucial. They had Supercharger, Ant Matrix, and that whole hog available to them to maintain control and get that progress built up, so it only took that one engagement. Got it all in one clean swoop.
Yeah, it was really, really clean in a lot of ways, and kind of not what I expected. I mean, considering they just got rumbled, like absolutely rolled on the defense. They turned around and were like, "You know what? They're still fighting us yet." Scorpion still got a little bit of sting, so and Mirror showing it there with the hooks.
Well, I like to see it. I like to see the gusto. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get yourself back into this fight. Speaking of, 2 minutes on the clock for JTA as they go back onto the attack here in extra innings. Sticking with the Royal Air Force here, I guess is what we're going to go with. In the name of a Pharah and an Echo. So far, just throwing down some prodding shots into the defense who are positioned up on that center platform.
I'll leave comp naming to you, Bullskunk. You had Killer Queen. That was a really good one. Really good one. I don't know what to call it. Royal Air Force, just the first thing that popped in my head. I don't even know if that makes sense.
Killer Queen's not original. I did take that from Lemon Kiwi, so credit where credit is due.
Oh boy.
My opening pick coming through from
out.
Yeah. Oh hey, I'm I'm not ashamed to admit it. It's something good. I'll repeat it. That's for sure. Early pick there. Otis is going to get rezzed up, but already 60 seconds eating off the clock here for free takeaways. JTA decided they need to get aggressive, seeing the same thing. Push up into the center platform, but Bob there to disrupt everything, and suddenly looking a little bit chaotic. Do get an Ant Matrix out, and a couple kills for the attackers. Otis does go down, but HK Ghul positioned up on the high ground with his Amplification Matrix. Finds one, and then GTA is going to push on to this point, see if they can get some progress built up, get that third point on the board.
Yeah, that was a nasty little bit of play by Harvey up there on the high ground as Jomac gets burned down, and I think that should be the end of their ability to contest this first point. But Harvey actually jumped up on the backside and threw HK Ghul off that high ground, tried to run away, and Harvey gunned him down, which is, obviously the kind of plays we would expect from Harvey, being kind of been a really good solid star DPS of the top of the Xbox scene, kind of on both sides of the Atlantic for a while now.
Coming back. Defense with a ton of ultimates, but JTA have a few of their own. Harvey with that Ant Matrix online. And been outstanding on the Baptiste here today. Really putting some work in. Down low go the tanks of JTA, and GL right there to meet him on the Mega. Barrage comes out, gets immediately shut down by Jomac, who's found both DPS of JTA. Supercharger there, gets immediately deleted. Mirror throws the whole hog into the mix. And actually, JTA buying themselves a little positioning on this objective, but there are still a lot of members of Free Takeaways alive. Deadeye thrown into the outside to help clean up the point, and that is going to do it for the extra inning at Salt here.
Yeah, unfortunately, they lost Otis really early on. Otis kind of hot or cold on that Echo kind of seems to be the trend. They lost Otis early on, which really set them back because Otis was coming up on the ult too, which would have helped them prolong that fight. There was a great bit of play there by Mirror with another good whole hog, but he got stuck by the pulse bomb in the middle of it, Bullskunk, and never really, I think, was able to quite recover in time to ward off that high noon that came in on the backside, and that's why you saw him go down. And I mean, honestly, by that point in time, it was kind of looking like the fight was over already. There was only so much that Gotham's could do.
They had just suffered so many casualties just approaching the objective. And there was just so many ultimates there for free takeaways.
I'm finding this match very interesting. These are the kind of comps that I would not have expected. They're very disparate, very individually player focused, and I mean, there's obviously method to this madness. There's coordination here and stuff, and you can see things being called out and people taking advantage of slams and stuff like that. It's just interesting to me because this is not the way that the game seems to be trending in a lot of the higher metas that we've seen. You're seeing a lot of stayed double shield composition, and both these teams have kind of turned their back on that idea and are playing kind of a, I don't know, crazy sort of all over the place pinball style of gameplay. I actually really like it. It's super entertaining.
Yeah, this split composition is very, very interesting to watch, and it does seem to be kind of like micro teamwork, like little 2-man, 3-man squad teamwork plays. to get the job done and enable the big damage dealers, enable the big playmakers. Speaking of unusual compositions and things not really in favor, we're getting a whole hog, or at least, excuse me, we're getting a road hog from the defense. Once again, JTA is sticking with the pig. Jakku going down early. As NGL finds a kill on Namir. Got caught out there on the front. JTA positioned up on this high ground. Just has free reign over this point. Trying to put the pressure down onto Ghul, who does fall off of his high ground. And they trade blows. NGL and HK Ghul. Oh my goodness, I'm going to trip over that one. The attackers do eventually clean up in this very unusual engagement and get some progress going here. What a strange broken fights these have been, Corbec.
Yeah, positioning is all over the place. it's kind of crazy. I mean, we saw HK Ghul up there on the high ground trying to get the healing grenades in. Then he was forced to back up, and then he got pulled before he could drop back down and rotate onto the back of Gotham's. It's just being so disparate and so weird, and whether that's just the way these teams like to play or whether a lot of that can be attributed to JoMac. I mean, we're seeing it again here as the carrier bag getting picked off basically by themselves in the middle of the map.
With Mighties in the back line, putting pressure onto the supports of JTA. I mean, the distance, between the front line and back lines is incredible. So spread out. It's hard to fathom how this works. But, you're just relying on those playmakers like JoMac to come in and do what he can do right now, currently in a duel with the opposing ball. But it feels like the rest of his team's still resetting here a bit. As they approach the front door, look to push in, throw mines over the point. Pulse bomb goes down from Mighties. That's going to pick off the Mercy. We're going to get the barrage in return from JTA. That's going to find two, but Mighties does eventually pick him out of the sky. Bomb out of the point from NGL, and suddenly these playmakers coalesce into one great assault. They take point B and take the map.
Well, it ended real quickly there. Things, truth be told, I thought for a second they might have salvaged it with that barrage that came in at the end, but just not enough, maybe too little too late, all things considered. And NGL picking up play of the game on the Ash. Deserved, I would say. It was well done there. Great dynamite coming out. Really helping drive home. I just watched him go there. Bob doing some heavy lifting as well. I don't know what it is with you and the robot butler, but when you're on the catch, Bob feels that inspiration, man. He really powers up a little bit there. I don't know what it is.
I inspire Omnics everywhere. That's
you inspire Omnics everywhere. Well, hey, I'm glad. Just be careful. You heard about the last guy that did that. So
yeah, that can be dangerous. That can be dangerous. Yeah. I think he got a bullet to the dome, if I remember correctly.
If you gotta be careful, he'll throw you away in an entry cinematic or
Hey, does that mean I'll get a statue on King's Row, though?
Not only you get the statue, you'll get a Stan Twitter account as well if you're that statue. Anyway, taking a look here, we'll see Mirror kind of not holding back there in these map picks. GTA wants Havana. We'll get Free Takeaway's opinion on attack or defend here. But yeah, kind of a back and forth fight. I think the thing that has been most interesting to me, Bullskunk, is just how disparate these have been. Like these team fights, like you said, have just been broken. And weird is not the right word. I mean, like I said, I do think there's coordination going on, but using the really staid solitary Orisa like in these compositions and trying to like orbit around the Orisa is just so odd to me, because it provides an anchor point, but you're also basically taking one of your fighters out of the fight every single time. It's very entertaining. Or very strange and entertaining. It's
very strange and definitely very entertaining. It just surprised me how spread out the teams are. I think I mentioned recently here on a cast that Captain Planet did an awesome bit of information gathering where he was able to determine the team's radius and how much they stuck together and how far individual players would go from the circle, from that center core of players. And it was just a fascinating metric, and I feel like that circle would just take up the entire map with these two teams. Like,
I mean, it would. I mean, presumably your ball players, right? They kind of they kind of move that circle just a little bit, I would say.
But even with the dive, like, it's because of this split composition. The Orisa staying so grounded and anchored. Even if you're getting like Ball Winston, they move a lot, but they tend to move relatively close to each other. But
yeah, they do. I mean, that's what you want, right? You want the dive to be coordinated.
Correct.
But we saw that at the beginning. Nobody's ever really tried that again. Instead, they've been taking the Orisa.
The Orisa with the Hammond.
And going forward. I mean, and all credit to them. I mean, on the side of free takeaways, that was a pretty convincing Anubis, right? They looked real solid. They did big damage. They got quick picks. I loved the body blocking. It was an amazing bit of play there to take that point so fast. I do wonder now, do they keep that pace, right? Because JTA, they struggle a little bit, then they came back. Now they're kind of back down in that position. And is it going to be one of these things where we see all night, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth? Or will, free takeaways just start to run away with this? And in a lot of ways, I feel like free takeaways is in the position where they could run away with this at any given time. You always feel like they're just a little bit ahead, and then kind of JTA just sticks out a hand and like grabs onto them, right? And tries to pull them back in. But we'll see. Taking the defense here on Havana, right? They've had really solid performances. This is another map where I think JoeMac can thrive on the Hammond, or on the Wrecking Ball. Sorry, let's use his appropriate name. On the Wrecking Ball, I think this is a map where they could very easily kind of put this one closer to being in the bag, significantly closer to being in the bag.
I think there's less opportunity for chaos. I think as long as JTA can push through to Distillery, I think Distillery is going to be the best spot to instill chaos, to attack from multiple angles, and for free takeaways style to work. So as long as JTA can push through to Distillery, I think their attack will find success. Because I believe their slower, more methodical approach will favor points A and C.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'm over here just trying to make sense of the madness a lot of the time of what's going on in these fights. From a caster's perspective, it's always a bit of a challenge when teams play these really disparate styles, because there's so much going on at the same time. A lot of individual kind of duels taking place. One of the highlights, I think, for me has just been Harvey on the Baptiste, kind of making the Baptiste difference in a lot of these fights. It's not that HK Ghul has been playing particularly bad on the Baptiste, though maybe one or two questionable positioning decisions, I think, at various points in times on Anubis, but still been playing pretty well. But Harvey on the Baptiste, he's been pumping out the heals, and he's also been putting in really good damage. He's been on the kill board a lot, right? We've seen him in the feed finishing off a lot of low health targets and doing a really good job in that regard. All right, looks like both teams are ready, so we'll get started on Havana here. Free takeaways will be coming out on the defense. JTA runs EU will be taking the attack here, though this is their map pick.
So that was free takeaways choosing to go on the defense.
That is true.
Yeah. So they didn't they didn't like the results there on King's Row and decided, wait a minute, we better defend here.
Yeah, indeed.
I mean, now, would you say this is a defense-favored map? I know obviously the Fortress can be very difficult to take.
Yeah, it is a defense-favored map. It honestly depends a lot on your player's ability to do well, like on the long sightline characters, and you can see Z Mighties and NGL coming out on the Ashe and the Widowmaker respectively, which are the obvious choices here. The long sightlines on the last bit are absolute play merry hell with a team comp that is going to be afraid of something like a Widowmaker. That being said, I mean, running into, I guess, what's going to be your standard sort of protect the president, Bastion, pirate ship, escort, I'll love to see what they can do here.
Well, we're seeing something a lot more traditional and slow-paced coming from free takeaways here. We're going to get the double shield, double sniper. Well, we're going to get a little bit of a Bastion double shield composition from JTA as they go on the attack. Well, looking to board the pirate ship. All aboard, mateys. Here we go.
Sure, good pull there. Didn't quite get the Bastion, though. That was a valid effort, though, and they'll continue to churn forward there. The Sigma already having to use the kind of black hole ability to draw on some damage, but that's a huge pick right there in HK Ghul. That's going to set everything out of balance right here.
Yeah, Mighty's in a wonderful position. Harvey following up, lighting up that kill feed, just like we were talking about, takes out the Bastion, and then Mighty's with a wonderful shot takes Warlock out right between the eyes with the sniper rifle.
I mean, if you ever needed kind of a live demonstration of what a good Widowmaker could do, oh no! Jacko got pulled back and killed in the spawn.
Oh, that's nasty. Oh,
That's
if you're
awful.
squeamish, avert your eyes, folks. Avert your eyes.
Oh my
That
lord! I can't even
was-
believe they did that.
Yeah,
Absolutely dirty.
That was dirty.
Terrible stuff. Do we
Oh,
have the
this-
18 plus warning on the channel? Jesus.
Otis and Warlock making some swaps here, going over to the sniper and the tracer respectively. Does not seem to matter. Z-Mighty's winning the sniper duel. Widowmaker duel, if we are sticking with proper names here. Otis trying to get into the back, see if they can disrupt the double sniper composition, but NGL right on top of things, finds the kill with the Viper, and back to the drawing board goes JTA.
Yeah, JTA looking kind of completely off the run here. Not really a lot they're able to muster at this moment. And I think Warlock might make a swap here again, coming out on the Ash. Otis going over to the Tracer. Brigida armor packs from Jacko coming in on that, but Warlock barely peeks their head out of spawn before they lose it almost immediately. And this is a forceful showing here from the defenders of free takeaways.
Mighty's just has Warlock's number. Warlock got 1% ult charge before getting sent. Oh, wow! NGL with the coach gun follow-up headshot onto Otis. Oh my goodness, that was such a difficult shot. NGL making it look easy.
They really are just spectacular stuff here by the defenders. The damage boost coming out almost maybe unnecessarily so, though I think they do have a couple of individuals trapped in the post office here, trying to use the cover of this desk to wait out the majority of this beatdown Bongos as they'll rotate out to the outside. And it's a good gravitic flux here to start it off. Bullskunk, they need value out of it, and then NGL will go down.
It was a 4-man flux, prompted out the Immortality Field and the Amplification Matrix from the defense. A responding flux coming out from Carrier does not get much, but the important kill down. Mighty's is down. The sniper no longer a threat to JTA as they try to push around this first corner. They do have to worry about Bob, but they're finding the picks around the Butler, and I think that is going to be what sets them apart, gets them some progress here on point A.
All credit to JTA. They played that really well. They used the cover. They waited for the majority of the supercharger to come down. Opening with the gravitic flux was a really good idea. And then they kind of were able to stagger out their kills on the DPS. You saw Z-Mighty's and NGL both going down there, and Z-Mighty's was absolutely oppressive on that Widowmaker. Still, one last chance here for free takeaways to hold on to this, and they very well could.
Supercharger out. As GTA's looking to push in. They're going to find one kill in the back of that. Joe Mac down. No more main tank for the defense. Picks his Mighty's off on the flank. As Free Takeaways was trying to kind of surround JTA, but one by one, they were able to catch that flank, take them down, unlock the garage doors into the distillery.
Funny enough, I was just about to say, I do wonder if Mighty stays on that Widowmaker, and he will swap over to the McCree, so the double Cowboys, or Cowboy Cowgirl, full yeehaw, whatever we want to call it, coming out on the other side here as they begin to stack up on the high ground. No, Z-Mighty's actually going back over to the Torbjorn. That's 3 quick changes there in a few seconds. He couldn't quite decide what he wanted to do. Torbjorn is relatively effective, actually, on this point if used correctly, so always interesting to see what value they can get out of that turret, but it'll go down real early on to Warlock.
Otis with the pulse bomb in the back is going to throw it down. The Immortality Field right there, but it did enough damage to where he's able to finish off Asa Carrier with the machine pistols. Turns around and gets the kill on to Jack Carter with a little help from Warlock, who falls in with a good kill on to Joe Mac as well. Warlock lighting up the feed with that Viper.
Wow, NGL kind of trapped in the back line there. Couldn't really run away. I guess decided that they just push forward. But, I mean, a bit of a brutal stagger. And with that Bob as well, I mean, NGL could have saved this. But I think they're going to give that one up. And just head straight back to holding on third point. And so far, despite those initial hiccups, Bullskunk been a pretty blistering attack here, all things considered. Z-Mighty's going back over to that Widowmaker, though, which is a good choice here on these long sight lines. Z-Mighty's absolutely oppressive on the first point. Let's see if they can muster it again. And they do. Warlock getting taken down right away.
Ooh, that's a good start for Z-Mighty. Already 62% to Infrasight, just to illustrate how much damage they are putting down already. That's nuts! Holy cow, Supercharger now out from the defense. One of the 5 ultimates they have online to help hold. Just 2 support ults from JTA as they try to approach this final objective. Otis getting in, trying to go in deep. Here comes the bomb from the defense. Amp Matrix thrown in from takeaways as well. Otis finds the one clip onto Mighty's. Great shooting, but Harvey responds back. I think the res is available. Jack Carney popping the Valkyrie. I don't know if they're going to get it down. Okay, they are going to get the res down onto Mighty's. We did get the pulse bomb thrown in, but that one whiffed from Otis. But now clean shooting onto the main tank. JoeMac goes down. Mirror getting in the mix there. Follows it up with a good kill onto Harvey as well. And that might be just the ticket here for JTA to push in as Mirror is coming up on that gravitic flux.
Yeah, that was a really good bit of play there by Otis, but Otis gets taken down almost immediately. Now the Gravitic's coming in on the other side. An opportunity to try and stall this one out as JoeMac comes out on the ball. Z-Mighty's not living very long, Bullskunk, and it could be a hold here. That Gravitic's getting no value.
No, and Mirror gets none out of it either. Mirror does follow it up with a kill and wins the duel of the scientists. Still a wrecking ball, stalling things out for free takeaways. $1:30 on the clock. No ultimates for either side. And it's just going to be a down here in the nitty-gritty. Warlock coming back on the legs. Finds 3 kills. Cleaning out the fortress. That's going to allow JTA to put that 3rd point on the board.
It was an interesting setup right there in a lot of ways. Just the great play, I think, really there was Otis getting Z-Mighty in the backside. And then what Otis actually did was he stuck around long enough. I think he thought to have warded off the res. Didn't quite manage to do it, but still delayed, I think, the Mercy's ability to come in and get full healing long enough for it to really make the deciding factor. And then it was just kind of a matter of storming the gates. I mean, the stall game wasn't really there. A good target focus on the side of the attackers to just push that one through to the end. Bullskunk. So I think despite that initial hiccup, we could really come away and say that was a pretty strong push, all things considered.
I agree with that one wholeheartedly. I mean, anytime you're pushing into the back of Havana with over a minute left on the clock, you're doing something right. That is one of the more difficult points, escort point C's to capture, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's very interesting in that regard. It's a difficult point. You know, Z-Mighty's was oppressive on that sniper, didn't quite get the value out of it on the second-hand side. Didn't really have a very good mid-phase at all, any of the members there of free takeaways. Yeah. They're coming out with the Bastion on attack here, so maybe they can set up something a little bit nicer. A very aggressive forward hold here for JTA, running that Junkrat straight up the gut here. Looking, Jacko checking the door, can't quite find anything, and we'll see. They need to get an early pick here. If they can get an early pick on the Bastion, they basically stop this whole thing.
Looks like a good raid from takeaways as they all circle out the right side from the attacker's point of view. Just throwing damage over the gas pumps here. See if they can get this aggressive defense dislodged. Sigma pushing forward, using that grass to buy a little space, but already an Amp Matrix online. Ghul goes down just as he throws the ultimate out, but it might enable this defense to buy some more time, find some picks. No, rotation coming through, and now NGL set up right in front of it, avoiding the LOS on that Amp Matrix entirely, finds the kills on the Bastion, and they're going to get this cart a-rolling.
Beautiful play there by Z-Mighty's actually to come around the outside edge and get that pick. So much attention, right, being focused on the Bastion because Bastion is the big scary threat there that you kind of forget about the Ashe and her ability to get those major picks, and that's exactly what happened to HK Ghul. Just blasted on the outside edge, and once the Baptiste sustain is gone, I mean, it's not like Brigitte is a particularly bad healer in her current state, but in an engagement like that, cannot hold it alone.
No, certainly not. Now Mighty's with Bob online, tank configuration online for NGL as well. Amp Matrix thrown out from the offense immediately as takeaways so far just cruising through point A. There are a couple members of the defense up on this side high ground. In fact, quite a few members as they've got their Orisa bunkered up there with both their DPS. All right, they're going to have to drop down and contest. Let's give this up for free. And they're going to go right shield to shield, overlapping each other. The Brig trying to get into the mix, but Jacko just eats a mortar blast there from NGL. Tank configuration coming out in a big way. Now NGL set up on this flank angle, and free takeaway is able to sandwich JTA's defense.
Oh yeah, that was just all sorts of bad for them. One of the problems with that aggressive first hold and how long that fight went on, Bullskunk, was it really allowed them to generate those ultimates. We saw a spectacular window from Harvey there, right where it needed to be on the card for NGL to take full advantage of it as they pushed around the corner, and that was what caught Mirror out. And once Mirror was gone, they were forced into that really awkward positioning just to try and maintain shield, and they were never really able to come back and recontest the cart in any sort of meaningful way. And that Bastion's gonna sit there because he's perfectly happy on top of his little rolling death fortress.
Otis hoping the Riptire will be the one to dislodge, and will take out Carne, so at least take a big chunk of healing and the res off the table for free takeaways. Going to respond back with a nice mine, and then here comes the high ground defense, just raining death from above. The positional advantage, too much for free takeaways to overcome there.
This is what I'm talking about, though, when I say every moment that it looks like we're just going to see free takeaways start to run away with this Bullskunk, JTA just clawing their way back in. That time it was a spectacular play by Otis. Great tire to initiate, and then just came over the back with tons of damage from the Junkrat, and his team was able to just collapse forward onto the point. That's obviously going to force free takeaways off the Bastion. They're going to have to reset here, but NGL getting picked out early on. Goodbye. Joe returning the favor almost immediately, and there's the res difference as Harvey throws down that window.
Free takeaways swinging the balance almost immediately with that. Nice dynamite to the high ground, put a lot of pressure onto the Ash and Brig of the defending team. Valkyrie U's going to throw out a bunch of extra damage. Well, at least a moderate amount of extra damage for the attackers. Harvey goes down, though. Z-Mighty strikes back, takes Brig out of the fight. But you got to worry about Otis on this Tracer, getting in the mix, getting into the back line, taking down Z-Mighty's. Now looking to get the Mercy, who's down one, finds that kill onto Jack. And the attackers, they're going to be forced to reset based on the play of Otis on this Tracer.
Again, Otis, I guess, hitting a hot streak here on the second point defense of Havana. Again, we didn't see this value really significantly coming out last map, but he's found it here. He's hit his stride, and the Tracer looking mighty good right now. Both these teams really neck and neck, to be honest, coming into this second point. It'll be interesting to see how they use this Gravitic. I assume it's going to be that the method by which they engage. That seems to be the way both of these teams are favoring the use of their Sigma ults.
Amp Matrix coming out from the Baptiste. Start things off for the defense. We'll see if free takeaways does indeed come in with that flux to initiate. They get the Amp Matrix, or the Immortality Field out early from JTA. A good opening here, good opportunity for free takeaways to push in, finally get some progress through the distillery as they take position up onto the high ground. We're going to get the flux out from the defense to start things off. That finds two. Mirror good and aggressive and going outside to try to pursue the kills and find the kills he does. Picking up a pair indeed. Otis getting into the mix as well, and the defense holding on once again.
Good shutdown there by the defense. Asda holding on to that ult throughout all of that. It was a good bit of play there by HK Ghul to get the window up early on, kind of shut down at least one of the routes. And then the minute they rotated to the backside, Warlock threw in the Bob, which kind of closed out another door as well. So doing a good job of basically hurting the opponents, not really giving them the space they needed to try and get their ults off. But they have to use the beatdown bongos, and they have to use the Gravitic Fleer. You just cannot end this fight with both of those still in the pocket.
4 ults online for free takeaways, as a matter of fact. Certainly have an advantage there. They'd be fools not to throw him down. I'm surprised we're not seeing him yet. No. 2 great initiators, and they lose Harvey before anybody can press Y. Not a good start with 35 seconds on the clock. Free takeaways at a deficit here and seemingly unwilling to use their ults in the last part of this point. Finally, we get the Gravitic Flux out, but the Immortality Field there. Z-Mighty does a good job of destroying the field before the slam. Joe Mack comes through with a good kill on the Gothams. 2 early picks with the duplicate coming out from NGL, and they have chosen the Sigma as the choice there for that ultimate. Kills coming through, but JTA striking right back. Warlock comes up with 1. HK Ghul comes up with 1 before getting taken out. And now it's the defense returning with ultimates and no time left on the clock here for free takeaways.
Yeah, not a lot they can do. Getting pressed up on the cart. Out comes the push here. Getting aggressive on the front side. Just trying to get Asda down at the moment is kind of the target of their ire. It's a really good Gravitics over the top there from Mirror, who just slammed him into the dirt. Now JoMac getting collapsed on from both sides. Warlock basically riding the horse there, shooting bullets back into Orissa's head. But still, the fight continuing on. Bullskunk there, not giving up this ground.
Otis.
Though, unfortunately, cannot last.
Otis put in so much work on the back of that, getting up pulse bombs every 30 seconds, it looked like by my eye test. Threw a big one over the top to put a lot of hurt onto the two tanks. Follows it up with a nice kill into the support line. That was, I mean, exactly what GTA needed. And it was the distillery. The distillery was the bane of free takeaways there.
Really was. The distillery they had no options. I think if we had to say that there was a particular aspect that was holding them back, it was the inability to get their ults out early on in those fights. That and the fact that they lost Harvey on that initial push as the first kill. Warlock getting the huge pick there. I mean, we've talked about Harvey a couple of times, but that Baptiste has been so important to this team, and losing Harvey at that initial blush is just terrible. It's just the worst thing that could have happened to them there, and it really, I think, just messed up their entire rotation. And again, it delayed them from getting out the ultimates when they needed to.
Yeah, a disastrous start to that fight. It'll be free takeaways map pick as we head to control for map number 5. We are going to take a quick little break. Let me refill my water. We'll see you back here in a few minutes even, as we head to control. Y'all don't go anywhere. Well, welcome back, my friends, to the Console Overwatch Multi-Tier Tournament. We're here in the EU region with the Tier 6 Grand Finals all tied up as we head into Lijiang Tower for map number 5.
Yeah, Bullskunk, it's been a strange match, absolute howler of a game, all things considered. These two teams, I mean, I think we've seen time and again, it feels like free takeaways is going to run off with it. JTA claws himself back in, and we're sitting at 2-2, and you know, honestly, the 2-2 score is very reflective of these kind of crazy, chaotic, scatterball team fights that we've been seeing throughout this match.
Yes, sir. It's been interesting. I mean, it's very chaotic team fights that seem to draw out, and then in a blink of an eye, suddenly all finish up. I mean, it's been just unusual fights, but it's been so fun to watch. I've absolutely loving this match, and we're all tied up heading into Lijiang. I mean, they couldn't be any tighter.
They really couldn't. JoMac now coming out on the ball here as to carry a bag, taking the Orisa duties. On the other side, a much more traditional composition. The double shield with the McCree, the Tracer there to put in a little bit of background pressure, so we'll see what they do. Keep an eye on Jacko throwing in those armor picks, but big pick early on, taking Warlock out of the fight is NGL.
And Jacko eating tons of damage, forced to shield bash just to try to escape out of the way of these rockets. NGL just ruling this whole map right now, and free takeaways, they're going to get first percentage started for us here.
Free point take there too. This disruptive playstyle we saw on the previous control point looking still really good, and watch JoMac come swinging in here and just create all sorts of havoc in the back line.
He's running into a Brig and a McCree. Has to be careful. A lot of CC now available for JTA as they're starting to wise up to these strategies, but doesn't mean they can stop them. NGL getting 2 kills with the barrage before Warlock finally picks him out of the sky. But now JTA forced to push in a 4v5 situation. Otis looking to equal things out, gets the kill onto the Mercy, falls into the nice pulse bomb onto Harvey. Both supports fall, and the main tank to the dual machine pistols of Otis on this Tracer.
Crazy right there. Otis really popping up. I was just about to say that I thought the attack might have been a little slowed down by JoMac kind of drawing people off in the back line. But then Otis came up and made the big plays and really got in there. A lot of ults invested into that by both sides as well to get that point flipped, and only kind of 34-16 right now.
Yeah, a lot through both teams fighting tooth and nail for every percentage of this objective. Free takeaways are coming back in with a pulse bomb of their own. Gonna have to watch out for a gravitic flux coming out from the defense. Oh, 2 early picks as Warlock and Ghul stuck their noses out a little too far and find it. Now punched and bleeding as free takeaways push and clean up. Man, these Tracers just absolutely going ham here, Corbec.
They really are. Something really interesting to note is the way that JoMac is playing this ball, at least on Lijiang here, not going in for a lot of slams, kind of just getting a ton of momentum, rolling through the ground and being disruptive on these narrow approaches, narrow defensive angles here on Li Zhang, which is an interesting way to play the character. And it's a great minefield in the back line right there. Immortality Field does come out, but it will not save Warlock, and that's a bad pick to have. The DPS with an ult going down early on in the fight.
Oh, and now just scrambling before they even approach the objective. JTA looking for answers and looking for something to clap back against JoeMac on this Wrecking Ball.
JoeMac on this Wrecking Ball and NGL up there on the far as well. Just ultimate harassment right here. You throw in that Tracer to the mix. Z-Mighty's just being a constant thorn in the side. And it's just a frustrating composition to play into if you're on the side of GTA. It's just not easy, right? There's a lot to focus on, and there's a lot of pressure being applied. It's really hard to establish a central line. We'll see how they make it work with this attack. That's a good Gravitics to initiate.
Yeah, speaking of ultimate harassment, the Flux open things up, finds Harvey. NGL does have the barrage online. Pulse bomb throw to the mix, takes down Asta Carrier. The Orisa gone for free takeaways. NGL not able to use that barrage in time, and JTA will get the flip, but not before 99% picked up from free takeaways.
Well, truth be told, JTA did a good job of holding on to their ult economy there. They still managed to wrestle 2 ults out of that, and HK Ghul coming up on the window. On the other side as well, I mean, obviously Harvey didn't really get a chance to use his ult, but good on NGL, I think, for holding onto that barrage, because every Pharah would know the temptation, right, of trying to get the hero barrage in that situation, but instead, waiting to combo it here, possibly with JoeMac's Mines, but it's a good pick in the Tracer duel on the outside edge.
Speaking of combos, and now we are going to get that barrage. Here it comes, over the top, finds 2, follows it up with an afterthought rocket to take down the Orisa, and then a double boom from JoeMac! Forcing a quick reset from the remaining members of JTA. No stall for you. And that's an early, quick first round. My goodness.
You love to see it there. That was great. What a great little roll through to knock him off the edge as well. Beautiful stuff. And as well, you know, great ult uses. NGL held onto the barrage, and it proved well worth the wait, Bullskunk, because they dropped in and they used it at the exact right moment when all attention was focused on the front side and got massive value out of it, and that's what you like to see. And I don't think they're going to be making any real switches to this disruptive comp on the side of free takeaways. Can't blame them because, yeah, it's looking great. I mean, it's honestly fire with Asda on that Orisa as well. It's just... It worked. If it's working, you don't fix it.
Well, I can tell you the real indication that it's working is JTA is going to mirror and force to come out on the exact same comp, try to beat them at their own game. And I don't know if they're going to have much luck with that. We're going to get the dogfight in the sky between 2 pharmacies and both Wrecking Balls here. So this is going to be a very chaotic fight. Mirror boops Asta Carrier off the map, but Z-Mighty's picks up Jakku on the brick. So we're at a 5v5, but free takeaways missing their main take. Oh, but get the kill on HK Ghul. So now JTA is missing their res. Warlock goes down, picked out of the sky by Harvey as both teams slowly make their way onto the objective after the individual duels taking place. JTA with a slight advantage here, but the reinforcements starting to return. Most importantly, that Orisa returning to the battle here for free takeaways. NGL picks up a kill. Hurricane's going to revive JoeMac, and I think free takeaways will run away with this fight, but they've got a little bit of cleanup still left to do here.
This is absolute madness on so many levels. They haven't even captured the point yet, Bullskunk, as now you have a ball rolling around. NGL still in here causing damage. The other ball is just going to drop an almost petulant minefield. That's Mirror throwing that one down to protect his Orisa.
Yeah, defensive minefield.
At this point, my lord, they still haven't taken it. It's still going. This is all the same fight.
These are 2 bloody teams here in this cage match. Every haymaker equaled with a haymaker from the other side, and in fact it's JTA who emerges with capture progress after all is said and done. Bouncing back from a big deficit mid-fight, Otis able to come back in and find a couple of key picks.
This is some wacky and wild Overwatch right here, if we're being honest, Bullskunk. Like, they clearly do things differently over in the EU console watch, and I'm here for it. This is great on all levels. An early ult there from the Mercy. Both Mercy's going to engage Valka. Good pulse bomb in there as well, but unfortunately no value, though Jacko will still be taken out.
with the rally in their pocket. Rez does come through. That's a big... Oh, it immediately dies again. Harvey takes him out as they press Y, and GL's going to throw the barrage down, clean up the rest that didn't fall into Joe Mac's minds. And free takeaways, well, they're taking away this point.
Amazing stuff. Super unfortunate there with that res straight into death. You hate to see it.
Even use the route like res just enough to press Y and die again. Like, oh wait, I hadn't thrown this away just yet. Get me back in this fight.
Another great heads-up play from Harvey there, too, on the Baptiste, finishing off that kill exactly when his team needed him to.
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Minefield coming out from JTA to try to initiate this next fight. Trying to put pressure down on the Orisa, but heals right there. Immortality Field on the spot. Perfect where it needed to be. Z-Mighties takes down Ghul. NGL getting into the mix as well, but Warlock responds back. Still has Barrage making his way on to this point. Free takeaway still in control of the objective. Finding the kills there to maintain it.
Yeah, they sure are. There's not really a lot they can kind of do here at this point in time. They kind of need to regroup. They have a couple ults in the bank right now, and they are effective ults. An interesting choice here is HK Ghul actually swapping over to the Moira, kind of giving up on any idea of running a Brigida on this composition from any of the supports, which I don't know if that's a mark of frustration or a mark that they feel that they're not getting enough healing.
But, I mean, what... You know, Moira typically good in bunkered down, clustered up compositions. There's been nothing clustered about this match at all. You know, perhaps some orbs on the point. Warlock coming through, still has the barrage going to throw it down over the front line. Does manage to get the Baptiste out of there, but NGL responds with a better barrage. Finds both the Orisa and the Tracer with that. Free takeaways still with the man advantage on the objective, and now time running out for JTA.
Yeah, JTA not having a lot of options, literally no ults going into this. A swap by Gotham's over to the Winston feels like something that you do just a little too late here, especially with Warlock on the McCree. And kind of like we saw Bullskunk, just not a lot of answers as they'll begin this final fight.
No, Mirror forced to go in early to start the overtime. Does get burned down. And Matrix out from the defense. They're going to utilize that to take down Otis, who had been a big playmaker here for JTA throughout Lijiang Tower. Rez comes through on a Mirror to get that extra sustain back onto the point. And Winston just kind of poking and prodding from the outside, but this feels like it's free takeaways objective, and they're not letting JTA anywhere near it. JTA throwing mines down to try to claim some positioning, but we're going to get Joe Mac responding with a minefield of his own, not allowing any space for JTA to work. Gotham's bunched up into a corner, does eventually fall. Tracer makes his way back to point, but it feels like a foregone attempt here as the overtime wake burns down.
I loved Otis there, just harassing Asda, running around like on the back line, putting in damage. That was great. Asda not fussed at all, to be honest. And Joe Mac with a Winston play or Winston wrecking ball play of the game there, and that great ult intro. And
I was hoping we get to see the double boop, but that was pretty awesome, too.
That was pretty good. Yeah, the minefield getting involved there and the spray for luck as well. And you feel a bit bad for Jacko getting rezzed and then immediately murked, but there you go.
You know, what can you do? Like you said, good heads-up play from Harvey. Harvey, just been outstanding on this Baptiste.
Really has, actually. Yeah, I mean, we've given him plenty of praise, and they deserve it. I mean, Joe Mac on the ball has been spectacular as well, really playing it disruptively. And we've seen it, I think, most obviously illustrated on our control maps. There's just not a lot that they've been able to do on the side of GTA to really answer what free takeaways is doing. You got to the point there, I think, on Gardens where it seemed like JTA just didn't have an answer. They went over to the Winston at the end. They were swapping around their DPS. They were swapping around supports as well. They changed off the Brigida to the Moira. They had swapped who was playing the Brigida. It was just all sorts of disruption and confusion there. And hopefully maybe we go into Hollywood next is the choice that Mirror and the JTA crew are picking. And I do wonder if they'll be able to maybe stabilize a little bit, which is kind of what we saw happen last time.
And back to praising the supports, I think one of the reasons I keep harping on that is, well, I do not envy the supports in these compositions. These
not at all
broken kind of split style comps. Oh my goodness, these supports have to just have their head on a swivel to keep their teams in these fights. Just nutty, absolutely nutty.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. I mean, you really do have to be a very individually skilled healer to work in a composition like this, especially on a line of sight healer, which is what Baptiste is at the end of the day. You have to be able to be heads up in regards to threats. You have to be able to get healing grenades to the members of your team. You don't have maybe like the healing grenade of an audit to boost. I mean, obviously you have the immortality field for when you get pressured, but I mean, if you're having to use the immortality field to save yourself, are you doing a particularly great job on the Baptiste? Debatable. It is not an easy job, and all credit to HK Ghul and Jacko as well, but they've been playing almost as good as Harvey and Jack Karn, and but Harvey the standout, Jack Karn the solid second, backing him up all the way. It has been a good performance from supports on both sides of the ball.
No doubt, no doubt. And the awareness to get those immortality fields where they need to be through assault coming at you from all direction. I mean, that must be just such a difficult position. Hats off to all four of our support players here in today's match. Quite honestly.
You don't envy them. I mean, it's shades of kind of the dive meta in a lot of ways, which was always really quite chaotic. But one of the upsides of a lot of the dive compositions, right, was you were running the Mercy, you were running the Zenyatta, and those heroes have lock-on heals, right? Zenyatta just throws out an orb, and you have to worry about sightlines, obviously, but it's not as oppressive as the idea of I'm a Baptiste. I have to reload my healing. I have to keep, check down eyes on wherever everybody is. There's also some movement ability thrown in there as well. It really is fascinating from their perspective.
I mean, Transcendence, you hear a big ult go off and you just hit trans. You're not looking where you're aiming it. You hit trans, like you're just boom. Why? I'm here, guys. I'm here. I've got all 8 of my arms. Let's do this. Baptiste, you're thinking, man, I hope I land this in the exact 5 meters it needs to be to save my team from whatever ultimate is coming in from all directions. I mean, with the duplicates and pulse bombs and barrages, and they've been Johnny on the spot with it. Harvey and Ghul have both really been very impressive.
It's been great play from pretty much everybody involved. I think some of it maybe has been a bit more streaky than others, and I think that might be a lot of the difference maker here. But, I mean, it's impossible to ignore the fact that JoeMac has been an absolute god on the Wrecking Ball, and he's going to continue being a god on the Wrecking Ball and struggling to shut it down. I mean, at one point in time on Lijiang, we saw both a McCree and a Brigitte back there trying to deal with him.
Correct.
No luck to be had there. They weren't able to shut him down, really. And as long as he has free reins, these disruptive team fights are going to continue to be exactly that, really disruptive.
Well, and Jakku even just foregoing that entirely, frustrated with the how ineffective that Brig was and probably should have been. He just goes to a Moira and just abandons that strategy entirely because they cannot seem to slow down this Wrecking Ball from free takeaways.
It was not the kind of decision you would make, I think, unless you were very frustrated with what was going on, and I can understand the frustration.
Sure.
But they're gonna run a ball now. JoeMac on the backside, gonna get around and get some early positioning. And what a pull that was!
What a hold! Yeah. Suddenly, free takeaways all ground level, or excuse me, JTA all ground level here. Let's get my sides swapped up here.
Lots of kills coming in fast and furious here on the backside edge. Immortality field forced out in the cafe, just trying to keep the team alive, but they've sacrificed any foothold they have on the point, and there's nothing they can do but back up here. They want to recontest. You can see Mirror is hungry for the recontest, but he's not going to get it, and it's 5 minutes and 40 seconds to start us off here, Bullskunk, and that's about as close to disaster as you can get on First Point Hollywood.
Yes, sir. That's a ton of time. Of course, free takeaways here on championship point. And, man, a wicked fast start. Otis does pick up JoeMac. I'd say that's about the most important kill you could get here for the defense. And, I mean, they're hanging tight in the ult department. I mean, they're putting damage down for JTA. A little trade there in DPS, and GL fallen, but Warlock goes down as well. And JTA able to get a little bit of an aggressive approach here. We'll see if it holds. They still have to worry about Z-Mighty and JoeMac in their backline.
JoeMac's back there, and he's got Jacko and Otis on him with that Wrecking Ball, or with that Brigitte McCree trying to shut down the Wrecking Ball. Up over in the air was HK Ghul. Still, though, here comes JoeMac again, and there's a little added nuisance in Z-Mighties.
Beautiful stick! Falls off the roof. Little blink stick in. Turns around, gets the kill onto Jakku. Oh, man, that was awesome. What a play from Z-Mighties on the Tracer.
Making it look easy, truth be told. That was a beautiful bit of play right there. I couldn't figure out at first if coming down off of the roof was intentional, but the blink there at the end, going in and getting the stick and going right back out, yeah, that was nothing but skill, pure class.
Pure class, much respect. Now, Supercharger and Mines available for free takeaways as they're just marching this thing into the back point B. Minefield right over the entrance here into point C. That's going to find Ghul immediately. NGL picking Otis out of the sky with the Hammond. With the Ash. Now JoeMac rolling in, putting pressure onto Jakku inside the jail, trying to pick off the last healer standing for JTA. Does eventually take down the Brig, and it should be clear sailing into the back of point B from here. Nice little follow-up, getting Warlock off the roof of the jail.
Warlock was actually doing a pretty good job up there on that position, but obviously as the rest of the team just kind of melted around him, not a lot they could do. Otis here with a desperate stall, Bullskunk, as we get another one of these kind of extended fight sequences that we should have become used to by now.
Oh, it's a beautiful stall. It enables Gotham and Jakku to get back out here on the Brig. The Brig able to pop rally, bolster the team up, and the reinforcements holding strong here. And not a moment too soon, right on the back of point B. But here comes free takeaways, right back on the assault, just as fast. You got NGL up on the high ground. Okay, he's going to just jump down, get right in their faces. Harvey with an early pick, taking Warlock out. NGL working the flank angle from the jail, able to pick off the Orisa. Immortality Field thrown into the mix, allowing free takeaways to get super aggressive. Bob right there to do some work, and we'll get that second point on the board.
Only a matter of time. I think they don't have anyone split spawn, though, and that's probably the best thing that you can say about the tail end of that fight there for them, as Warlock gets picked off right there. Might have been the closest thing they had to a split spawn, but they're going to give up a ton of ground here as they need to get back in, and you can see Otis and Jacko on the high ground there, and they've got a hog now, Mirror on the hog as well, so really going to shut down that ball, who's actually waiting just around the corner from the Roadhog. Funny enough, I don't think they quite realize where he is.
He's just sitting up there with the mines in his pocket. One little boop. Here comes the mines. Devaluing the Amp Matrix. Perfect placement of the minefield. Good pulse pump coming out from Z. Mighties is going to pick off HG Ghul. Otis finds one of his own. JoeMac getting into the mix, but Harvey goes down, so now both teams missing a support. 4v4 left here on the objective. Nice kill from Mighties. Picks off Mirror just as he was about to throw the hook. And this payload all the while pushing in towards the trailer. But a last recontest will come through here from JTA.
This man on this ball, JoeMac, is just nasty as hell, and they throw down the Supercharger here, which I think might help them clutch this out. Mirror coming back on the ball, but no real luck onto that as he gets flipped up in the air by the Bob.
Ooh. Trying to contest the top of the trailer. JoeMac kind of swinging around there a little bit. Rally pop from the defense. Otis is going to move in and be able to get the Ana. There's a good play there. Harvey making that swap. Interesting pick onto the Ana. Otis finishes off the Mercy as well, single-handedly taking out both supports of free takeaways.
It's just crazy. I mean, swapping Mirror over to the ball here, you lose all the alt charge that was on the hog. It took him like one death before he decided that wasn't what they were going to play. And there was some beautiful play by JoeMac on the high ground, just kind of hiding and waiting for his moment to strike, but getting a little choked up here. Don't know for how long, though, because as the carrier bag's coming straight up the gate there, Mirror getting slept for half a second to kind of slow down his momentum, Bullskunk.
Woo! Once again, the Mines devaluing damage ultimates, this time both Supercharger and the Amplification Matrix, but Otis and Jakku had already pushed in on the front line, cleaning up, and the defense will plant their feet with 2 minutes left on the clock.
Well, there's that team kill coming in. You kind of felt maybe Mirror's swap to the ball actually being pretty effective there. Got in the back line, kind of displaced Harvey and Jack Karn a little bit, made him have a little bit harder time getting those heals forward. It was a good minefield attempt by JoeMac in there, too, to try and pull the same trick on the supports of JTA. They just weren't quite as susceptible to it. But Harvey now with the ult in the bag, so a nano boost will be coming through here. If he can stay alive.
Ooh, Warlock! Oh my goodness! Warlock finds 3 kills right out of the gate. That's how you need your ass to perform if you're a JTA. Fantastic shooting with the big 3K.
Now, I just want to put out the amount of effort that went into taking down Harvey there to shut that nano down, and I don't obviously know whether they know exactly whether he has it. I'm assuming they kind of do, but it was the minefield followed by the halt, and then off the halt was how Warlock got that pick to take him out of the fight. But look at this ult economy, Bullskunk. This is the kind of ultimate ult economy you want as the attacker, and that Bob coming in first is just the start, as is the pulse bomb to knock Warlock out of the fight.
That's a fantastic start, taking down that big carry. Now Mighty's going to drop into the back, put pressure onto the tank line. It's Sigma who's down super low. His grasp already used, doesn't find much shielding, but he does find the kill onto Mighty's. Otis drops as well. Both teams missing their Tracer player. NGL positioned up on this high ground, trying to rain down, but it's Warlock who's answering right back, finds Harvey once again with the Viper. And JTA running a free takeaways right on out of here with just 15 seconds on the clock.
Going to be hard for them to recontest. They still have the damage bongo. They do have the Mercy ult in the bag as well. Mercy obviously probably could touch there if Jack Karn chooses to pop it, but it's a good pick there on Warlock, and they just need to get somebody on, and they will to continue contesting. They could turn this one around if that window's not that effective.
They're running into Supercharger and an 8 Matrix on the other side, though it doesn't seem to matter. Supercharger out from the attacking team enables 2 kills to get picked up. Jakku going down. The res comes through onto NGL. We're going to get free takeaways throwing Bob onto the point. And and the focus down onto Gotham's Grizzly. Too much. JTA does strike back, picking off the McCree. Mighty's out of this fight, making that swap off of the Tracer. Brig coming back in, going to add a little bit of sustain to the defense. And the Gravitic Flux used from JTA. That's going to find 3 members. And Mirror gets the follow-up kills. And JTA might actually be closing this thing out. They get the pick onto the Orisa, and they do. They hold on the back of point C. Good defense.
Lord, Bullskunk. Mirror, I think, just used up all 9 of his lives right there. That man was so close to death on that Sigma. Coming up on top of those power generators there was anti-nated, had a sliver of health yet left, and yet somehow managed to get off that massive Gravitic Flux and not only get it off, but come in and finish off the kills. An amazing bit of play by the off-tank player there to turn that fight around. And I can't help but think that Free Takeaway is probably kicking themselves a little bit on this one, because they're so close to closing this out and getting that full push through, but they just could not quite manage to do it. Stuffed out there at the bitter end.
Oh, and I think it comes back down to that duel with Mighties. Mirror able to get the flip around and find the hyperspheres onto Z Mighties, who was harassing him with the Tracer. That could have been just disastrous. Mighties almost had that kill. That was 1 clip away from taking that Sigma down. Wins that duel, and Mirror drops that great Gravitic Flux you were talking about.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff there to see them do that. I was going to say, right before we went into that fight, I really thought that Free Takeaways was going to pull that off. They had done such a good job just instinctively rotating out of the way of that window and that beatdown bongo to go on the left-hand side.
Looks like
and Otis
got
getting
DC.
taken out of the game, so we'll pop the pause there. Fortunately, not going down in the middle of a team fight. So we will start the timer here for him to get back in the lobby. But I was going to say, it was really good kind of heads-up play from them to rotate around on the outside edge, get back in there, right? Avoid the amount of damage that was coming down the pipe. They were doing a great job, too, of focusing down targets that Harvey had anti-nated. That was another thing. Jomac on the Orisa was on the cart, just getting damage chucked into him by the Bob, but enough trust in his healer to just keep firing at the anti-nated target there. Then suddenly they just weren't able to get the pick on Mirror, and that was kind of what started to turn that around.
Yeah, fantastic hero play from Sigma. And it just goes to show you how strong that hero really is here in the double shield meta. You know, Orisa goes down, don't worry about it. You've got your Shoeless Wonder in there to slam everybody to the ground.
It looks as though Otis might be having some sort of internet connection issues, problem with his Ethernet cable, apparently. So we'll wait here for half a second. Unfortunately, Bullskunk, this is the disadvantage of having to do online tournaments, though. We're all very familiar with it now. Otis, back in. And we'll start the ready up here in just a second. Just letting both teams know.
Win conditions set based off that fantastic hold from JTA. They just need to, well, nearly take it all the way home, but not quite to the back of point C.
Yeah, it's, you know, not the full 9 yards, but it is close. All things considered. Otis coming out on the Tracer, the Ash, nothing too surprising here. Pretty similar compositions. The biggest swap here, JoeMac not playing the ball anymore, just going to go solid with the Orisa.
A big change with the Pharah Ash on the defense. NGL already putting in some work from above. Warlock gonna be forced to have to deal with that Ash, taking the high on the Ash, taking the high ground, trying to find the Pharah, gets a good shot down, turns around, lands a headshot onto Harvey. Immortality Field forced out early from takeaways. And I think that's going to prompt JTA to push in here. Warlock still keeping the Pharah on check on the outside. Z-Mighties does pick off HK Ghul, excuse me, on the way in. NGL finally taking Warlock down as well. And despite the early pick, yeah, I was about to say, I think this is going to be a reset from JTA.
So here now, match point, 3-2 in favor of free takeaways, and we're finally seeing what I would argue is the most traditional fight of the night coming out from these two teams. Apparently, it's just taken them, 5 maps to get this one in the box and start playing in a style that we'd be more expected. NGL there with the barrage. Keep an eye on the Pharah, ladies and gentlemen, because he's looking to use it. Is intentionally scoping out that high ground exactly for that purpose.
Yes, sir. Bob also available. Gravitic Flux Supercharger online. I mean, free takeaways coming up on a full 6-pack of ultimates here. Z-Mighties gets taken down before Bob could come out to the playing field. We did get both defensive ultimates used from free takeaways. Here comes the Gravitic Flux. Flux is going to find 3. Slams them down with great ferocity. Devaluing the Amp Matrix and finding a pair of kills along the way. Follows up with a nice kill onto the Ash as well.
Great play by Asda, and they had to throw that barrage in at the end there. Maybe a little bit unnecessary, but still great job from the Sigma player to shut that down. Good damage coming in all around, and really putting the pressure on Mirror, who's just trying to get back and soft regroup with the team. As the counter Gravitic Flux comes out, that's a good number of targets in it, but he'll not get it off.
No, he gets rocked out of it, but they do get the kill onto the Mercy as well onto the Ash in the process as they were lifted up into extreme vulnerability as it is eventually drop, and JTA will get this car to roll in here, barring a little bit of cleanup.
Again, maybe kind of wishing they had NGL's barrage there during that fight. Z-Mighty's never really able to get the Bob out of the pocket either to help. Harvey switching over to the Brigida, which is, I think, maybe the first time all night we've not seen him playing on a BAP, which is an interesting choice here, especially in a double shield composition. I assume that the armor packs are a factor in this decision, though I can't actually really puzzle that one out too much, Bullskunk. I guess they're just going to play hyper-aggressive.
I think it's also help with Otis on the Tracer, seeing it as both the other characters are kind of on... It'd be difficult for an Ash or a Pharah to consistently pick off the Tracer. But Supercharger used from JTA, they got 2 early picks, including the Orisa of free takeaways. And JTA just getting aggressive here. They're going to go ahead and clean up the beginning of point B.
Yeah, Harvey just kind of getting bullied in the corner there, brought down pretty quickly. Otis on that Tracer, maybe making a lot of a difference here, and sure enough, catches Z-Mighty, is out in the open ground with no real support. Some petulant shots there coming out of JoeMac on that Orisa. I think they wish they could have saved their teammate right there, but it was not to be. That also means whoa, what in the back line, MGL? Like a hawk from clear skies. Beautiful stuff there by the Pharah.
Oh, man. Otis never saw it coming. Just spontaneously combusted, and now NGL dropping the barrage down over that back line. Finds 1 before Jakku eventually takes him out, but so much damage put down. Harvey able to come in with 2 final blows and send the defense packing. Or the attackers packing, rather.
I guess Harvey decided he didn't want to be a Baptiste. A Brigida, he'll be a Baptiste instead. Jack Karn taking over Brigida duties here on the back line. Interesting, we've seen the supports making those kind of decisions all night on both sides, kind of swapping around a little bit. NGL coming out now on the Torbjorn. I assume that turret is very much for the Tracer. And this is supposed to be what Torbjorn is good at, right? This is his thing, trying to shut down flankers with that auto-aim turret.
Yeah, Otis working the second floor of the clubhouse right now. Trying to go, okay, just scouting a little bit, takes out the turret. Now looking for the Ash. Ash escapes up to the high ground, forced to deal with an overloaded Torbjorn in the back. Here comes the Gravitic Flux from the attackers to whittle everybody down to half health. See if the Tracer can finish him off. But they're running into a Supercharger. Free takeaways. Deciding they're not going down without a fight. Come through with a bunch of extra damage. Throw the Butler onto the battlefield as well. And clean up here in the streets of Hollywood.
With a minute 30 left, we're here, Bullskunk, almost a minute now. There's only one ultimate on the field, and it is Harvey's window. Oh, even as I say that, Otis gets the pulse bomb and then gets just popped in the back line by the Torbjorn turret. Otis may be feeling the pressure here, and this is do or die time for JTA. If they want to stay in this and they want to win, they have to make some big plays. Warlock almost trying to do it by themselves there. Good pick on Z Mighty to start off, but has to stay alive and has to watch out for that turret. Gets it early on.
Yeah, good positioning up onto the high ground. Good halt from the attackers as well. Free takeaways using their amplification matrix to try to put an end to this right here, right now. Do not find any kills with that. Immortality field forced out by the pulse bomb from Otis, but the pressure continues to get put down from JTA. And inch by inch, they make their way towards the end of point B here. Gravitic Flux thrown in yet again from Mirror. This guy's getting up so fast and finding great value with them as well. Here's 2 points on the board for JTA.
Beautiful stuff there, and they will push it through. That took a lot of time to get out of the streets phase, but enough now they can regroup. I think they might be able to capitalize on a split spawn here, and it's a very nasty split spawn because it's Jomac. That Orisa, of course, not really able to do anything but kind of run forward into death there and get that reset, but there will be a significant delay now in their ability to set up the defense. Now, the weirdest thing right here, though, look at where Mira is. Bullskunk all the way pushed up, engaging in a fight with 3 members of the enemy team.
It looks like all the free takeaways are going to come up there to welcome Mirror to point C. Mirror wisely just drops back down to the low ground. Austin chasing him down, turned into a little bit of a Sigma duel for a moment, but the rest of free takeaways rejoin their Sigma. Now we're getting an Amp Matrix from the attackers. JTA threw their Bob onto the objective with that as well. Z Mighty's actually picks off Warlock as dual Amp Matrix were over the point, and it's the Molten Core ends up scaring JTA back to spawn.
Well, you can't ask for a much better ending to a series than this, Bullskunk. Right there at the doorway, they had to get that cart just 8 meters up the road, 8.08 meters if we're to be exact. They have 2 ults in the bank, the other side 2 as well. A pretty even matchup here as they come in, the rally to start them off, Bullskunk. Let's see if they can take it home.
Gravitic Flux from the defense is going to find 2. Mirror threw out a flux of his own, and I think that found Mighty's. Mighty's found the safety of their healers. Now Mirror caught in a very strange spot. No kinetic grasp. He's going to go down. Mighty's had thrown the Bob under the mix, but quickly dealt with. Supercharger thrown in from free takeaways, and free takeaways finding the picks. They get 2 kills. Mighty's kills Warlock, NGL all over it, and takeaways have done it. They've cleaned this point off. They're going to stave off the assault, finish Hollywood, and they are your Tier 6 Grand Champions.
Spectacular play by free takeaways there at the end, finally putting in the difference and pulling ahead. Great defense, and Mirror been playing so well all night actually on those off-tank rolls, but it was really a lot of it was Jomac there on the ball kind of making the difference. Still, at the end of the day, just edging JTA out, and I've been saying it the entire match, but I do feel like this is a deserved win for these guys. They were showing the superior skill for most of the night. There were flashes of brilliance coming out of JTA's, but free takeaways, can't begrudge them anything there. Really well played.
Very well played indeed. That was an awesome match, Corbec. That was an awesome match. Oh, I'm so excited. That was a finals. Like, that is how a final should look right there.
That was something. That was crazy and kooky and weird and wild. And just some real scatterbrained Overwatch of kind of an older style that you don't really see anymore. Yeah? Maybe over in Chinese contenders or something, you'll see weird stuff like that being played, just experimenting wise. But brilliant gameplay from all the gentlemen and ladies involved this evening. Spectacular stuff all around.
So down to our MVP here. And
that's a hard choice,
this
actually.
This is a hard choice. I think right now, I'll give you 2 options to choose from. But we're probably thinking the same 2 here in Jomac and Harvey. So between, maybe a joint player of the match, because I feel like it's too difficult. I feel like one wouldn't have been able to perform without the other. So,
I agree with you, Bullskunk. It is like a too close to call situation. We're gonna have to go, I don't know, look at some hanging chads or something to determine. I mean, all night we see Joe Mac on this ball.
Yeah.
Incredibly disruptive.
Some of the most
hitting good
spectacular
minefields. Must have been calling his brains out there. Man must be hoarse because he was making the right calls to get the team in to take advantage of the plays that he was making. Beautiful stuff. Ball is not an easy hero to play at a high level. In these kind of coordinated, organized play settings, especially, did a spectacular job on the ball. On the other side of the ball, no pun intended, you had Harvey, who was playing this Baptiste. Excellent window placement, great heals, and most of all, those heads-up plays with the DPS to just finish off picks. It's exactly what you would want to see. It's about as good of a performance on the Baptiste as you can possibly get. So for me, there's no difference between them. They both are valuable. It's the most valuable players in my mind, really.
Yeah, we're just going to have to go with joint MVPs here today.
Joint MVPs.
Joint MVPs. We make the rules right now, and that's what we're going with.
Fair enough. You're running the production, so it's all on you. I'll go with you on it. But
I like
overall, Skunk, an amazing game. Really a joy to
Amazing
watch. Tons of congratulations to Free Takeaways on a hard-fought season and getting the win. And JTA, they have nothing to be ashamed of. They played a great match. They nearly took it to that mythical Game 7. Just really well done on both sides, and an absolute pleasure to watch some good Overwatch here from the EU.
Yep, big congrats to Free Takeaways. You're grand champions in the Tier 6 EU division. Awesome stuff. Well, we will have a lot more Overwatch action coming at you later on today. What's that?
Oh, we sure do have a lot more Overwatch coming for you.
Yeah.
A lot.
We're going to close out Xbox Finals week with a bang, as we will head to the NA region a little bit later on. We have the Tier 3 finals going on my channel, twitch.tv/Bullskunk. We will have the Tier 2 finals going on CGL2, and we will have the big boys, the Tier 6 finals on CGL1, all taking place around 9 o'clock Eastern tonight. We hope to see all your friendly faces there. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and bid you adieu. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been a pleasure bringing you this broadcast. Y'all remember to look out for each other in game and out. We will see you later on today. Till then.